exciting times. I'm Jenny Peterson, president of the Genealogy Society, and it's my job to welcome you and to introduce our first dignitary who will introduce the rest of the program, I guess. So, Dr. Mary Kahn is the director of Chapman Center of Rural Studies at K-State University, and she and her students have partnered with us at the Genealogical Society on a number of programs and projects over the years. She's also the co-PI on the Kansas Land Treaties Project with Drs. Lisa Tatanetti and Ty Edwards, and you'll hear more about that, I think, in a minute, because we've asked Mary to talk about the Chapman Center website and the information about their work with the Kansas Land Treaties Program and the other related resources that they have on their website. So, Mary, come forward. We'll let you introduce the speakers and the showing of the film. So, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for letting me do this introduction. It's a real honor. I've been watching the progress of the Sacred Red Rock film since, for the last 5 years or so, I would say, while working on the Kansas Land Treaties Project. So I will pull up if I can remember my password while I'm talking. There's no such thing as multitasking, is there? There we go. So I do want to mention, I've been asked to mention the Kansas Land Treaties Project. I came to the Sacred Red Rock Project through overlapping partnerships. So I had the pleasure of meeting Pauline, who will be talking to us here in just a minute, Pauline E. Sharp, at one of the Sacred Red Rock events in Lawrence when the Sacred Red Rock I̲zhúje'waxóbe was getting what's the right word? Prepared for move, yes, rematriated. Rematriated is the right word. So up in Robinson Park in Lawrence. And that was such an inspiration because as a settler scholar whose work originally did not focus on this subject matter, over the past few years, I've been really compelled to learn more about the place where I live. And we want all the folks who move through this land to learn more about where they live. And so the Kansas Land Treaties Project with our documentaries, we've got 3 documentaries, they're much shorter than the Sacred Red Rock documentary, but also learning materials and website information has been a real labor of love devoted to trying to make sure that everyone in Kansas knows a little more about where their state's name came from, about how this land has been used over the past couple centuries. And I think having those hard conversations is exactly what this documentary is about. So this documentary has been supported by a Mellon Foundation grant, and it's been a part of a long process of coming to terms with lingering wrongs that have been long existing. It's about opening up conversations and recognizing injustices. Sacred Red Rock was moved to Robinson Park in 1929 from the Kansas River. And I'm sure we're going to learn much more about this from the documentary, so I don't want to spoil the story. But I just want to say that I find this story to be a model of how to have conversations and bring communities together to right lingering wrongs. With that in mind, what we're going to do this afternoon is, first I'm going to have Pauline H. Sharp get up here and tell us just a few details about the film, including the many accolades that this film has already won. I personally have not yet seen this film, so I am so thrilled to be here today. And then we're going to have a discussion with Sydney Purcell and Pauline E. Sharp, who are both members of the leadership committee for this project among, I think it's a committee of 5, is that right? 7. So many hands have gone into making this happen, but we've got 2 prominent figures who have done quite a bit of heavy lifting here. to answer your questions and have conversation about this project as well. So I'm really excited about that. So on that note, I don't want to take up too much time here, but I do want to pass it over to Pauline so she can tell us a little bit about how this film has been received.
Thank you, Mary. I just wanted to thank our sponsors today, the Chapman Center for Rural Studies and the Riley County Genealogical Society and the library, of course. And thank you all for being here. My name is Pauline Sharp. I am a Kaw Nation citizen, and well, you'll learn more about me too in the film. So I'd just like to say that this project has been hundreds of thousands of years in the making. So that's when the rock arrived. And I won't say too much either about the film, but I did want to say the awards that we have won so far. We won Best Director in the Fall 2025 Alternative Film Festival in Wichita. We got Outstanding Documentary in the 2026 Western Heritage Awards in Oklahoma City. And we got Best Oklahoma Documentary Feature in 2026 from the Circle Cinema Film Festival in Tulsa. And we hope there will be more. So enjoy the film.
Wow, that was incredibly moving, wasn't it? I just feel like we've all had such an experience watching that. And what's even more incredible is that we have an encore to that. We have two members of the leadership team here today who have come to talk to us about their experience with this project. And I would like to formally introduce them now. We have Sydney Purcell, who is the first curator, let me see if I get this right, curator for public practice at the Spencer Art Museum on the campus of the University of Kansas. Sydney initiates ways to involve community and incorporate feedback into exhibitions and programs. Her interests include community-based and socially engaged art, indigenous art, culture, identity, and representation, and disability art, accessibility, and multi-sensory learning. She serves on the Native Faculty and Staff Council, Powwow, and Indigenous Cultures Festival Committee, and the Indigenous Arts Initiative Committee at the University of Kansas. Sydney joined the I̲zhúje'waxóbe Sacred Red Rock project in 2022 when she started at the Spencer Museum of Art. She received an MFA in Expanded Media from KU and a BFA in Painting from the University of Missouri. Sydney is a citizen of the Iowa Tribe of Kansas and Nebraska. We welcome you here today. Thank you so very much for being here. I'd like to invite you up to our table in front, and joining you is someone many of us have seen before, Pauline H. Sharp, who is Kaw Nation. She's a citizen of the Kaw Nation and currently serves as chair of the Kansas Heritage Society. She served on the Sacred Red Rock leadership team, which has successfully rematriated I̲zhúje'waxóbe to the Kaw Nation homeland at Allegawaho Memorial Heritage Park near Council Grove, Kansas. I highly recommend taking the drive up there to see the absolutely incredible park that has been built around this. It's really moving. Pauline has served on the Kaw Nation Cultural Committee as well as the Board of Trustees of the Mid-American All-Indian Center in Wichita, Kansas. She is a juried member of the Kansas Alliance of Professional Historical Performers. And on that note, I want to extend an invitation to everybody here today. Pauline will be joining us again September 19th for our Chautauqua in City Park in the Noraville stage. And this is a really rare opportunity because Pauline has been slowing down her work on these projects. So I highly recommend you come see her. I've gotten the chance to see her in the past. It's an incredible experience. Just a couple more lines here. Pauline retired in 2012 from a 40-year career in information technology, and she lives in Wichita, Kansas with her husband, Doug Sharp, who is here today. And she is a proud daughter-in-law of the late Jim Sharp from Manhattan, who has supported this library as well. So very connected to our communities, and we're very excited to have them here today. We are inviting questions and conversation here. I will pass the mic over, but I will also serve as a runner. So you can feel free to select people, and then I will ferry the mic back and forth.
Okay, do we have any questions?
I have a question for you.
Yes, Kitty.
Has it slowed down a little bit for you?
I know you've been working hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. Is it slowing down for you now that the rock is home?
Yes. Thank goodness, yes. And I haven't done my Chief Lucy presentation for like 4 years now, so I told Doug I was giving up stress, and here it is, back again. Anybody else? Yes.
When they took off that plaque in Lawrence? When they took off the plaque in Lawrence, I could see bolts or something. Did you have to smooth that? Do something to where that plaque had been?
Okay. Yes, we talked about it, and somebody mentioned that when artifacts are returned to museums, they often have scars. And so we decided just to leave it as it is because it's part of the story.
With the slight patching. So the 4 post holes where the plaque was affixed, we had talked to some geologists, and they could have patched the rock so it looked how it did prior to the plaque being affixed, because they did shave down part of it. And we wanted to keep the scar visible as part of I̲zhúje'waxóbe's history, but where those 4 points were patched, because if water got into those, as we all know, water expands, it could crack the rock over time. So there are 4 little tiny patch marks, but otherwise we left the scar visible.
Do you have information on how they moved it originally in 1929? How long that took and how they went about doing that?
Yes, so the question is, do we have any information about how they moved the rock in 1929? And we do have some information. We know it was moved via the rail lines, and you heard Pauline, and the story goes that in the dead of the night, the rock was moved, like they were trying to be sneaky about it, which actually is not the case. What we learned from newspaper articles from the time is that they started to move the rock sometime in the early, like noon hour, but they thought that the rock only weighed about 10 tons at that time. So they actually broke the first crane that they'd used to lift the rock, and they had to repair it or get a new one, and that's why it was moved in the middle of the night, because it was a lot more difficult than they originally thought. But they had cranes at the time, so they were able to use cranes that were attached to the rail car to move the rock. And the location where they dropped it off in Lawrence was, again, right on the rail line. So it was not as challenging. Do you have anything to add?
We have not been able to find any photos, though, of that day, other than the rock sitting on the truck bed, and we've asked everyone, and we thought maybe there would be something in the railroad archives, but they would not let us go look in the archives. So whether they have a history, we don't know.
I have a question. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the use of the Kaw language in the film, and the decision to, especially early on in the film, to use a lot of the Kaw
Yes, the question is about the Kaw language in the film, and the Kaw language has been revitalized just recently, actually, in the last 20 years probably. And it is a very big part of our history and culture. And we made a point to include it in the film. It just adds to the story.
Yeah, I think a lot of tribal languages, and what's really exciting for me as an Iowa person working on the project, the film team, I was on the documentary team, and then Pauline and I were also on the community engagement team together, so I had various roles in this project. But I learned very early on that our languages are actually very similar, because our tribes were located in similar areas of the country. When Kaw Nation was removed from the state of Kansas, my people were also removed from the state of Iowa, which is where Iowa gets its name, from the Iowa tribe. We call ourselves I�zhúje'waxóbe. But there were a lot of words that were very similar. The way that we say hello, Hanwei is exactly the same. So that was really exciting for me as a Native person whose reservation is now on Kaw homelands. We are on the border of Kansas and Nebraska now, and there's also an Iowa tribe in Oklahoma, because our tribe split into two. Half of us wanted to stay in Kansas, and half of us did not. Our word Wahóbe for sacred is the exact same. Wakanda, the word for the creator or God, is the exact same. So there are so many similarities between our tribe, which made this project really, really important for me to work on personally as well. We are not as far along in our language revitalization efforts as Kaw Nation, so I really applaud the work that they are doing. They have, as you've seen, the language immersion school. We don't quite have those resources and those programs up and running for my tribe, but there is an effort to revitalize our languages as well as so many others around the country.
On the language issue, is the script, I perceive that the script used for the Kaw language is slightly different from English, and the script for I�zhúje'waxóbe or Osage appears to be different yet. How many different scripts are used for these related languages? Are you familiar with that?
So the question is about the language usage in the film and the script underneath and translating those languages. I�zhúje'waxóbe, which is the Osage language, is also very closely related to Kaw and Ponca and a lot of the other related tribes. At one point, all of those tribes were one tribe, and they split over time as they moved to different areas or other things happened within the tribal communities. Colonization being one that split tribes quite frequently, like my own, which is why there are two Iowa tribes. There was a concerted effort for the Osage, for their language, to come up with a orthography, so the written version of the language. A lot of our tribal languages were not written down prior to colonization, and some tribes have been more proactive about identifying their own orthography, their own written version of the language, versus using English to try to create an orthography. I know my tribe has not tried to create our own orthography, but it's something that we've considered, because there are a lot of sounds like E, you hear that in the language. I�zhúje'waxóbe is a nasalized I. So it's not I̓zhúje'waxóbe, it's I̓zhúje'waxóbe, because it kind of comes through the nose. And we identify that in both of our tribes with a little N, but I�zhúje'waxóbe will have a completely different character to signify that it is a nasalized vowel, or they have really cool language when you see it written that like really identifies them as Osage, as I�zhúje'waxóbe. And I hope that someday some of our other tribes, like my own, will have the resources and be able to do that as well. Would you like to add anything?
We were very fortunate that a linguist from KU took an interest in our language, and he went to Oklahoma in the 1970s and was able to make recordings of the last speakers of the language. And he had real the old-fashioned. But they were able to be converted into digital finally, and we've had other linguists help with the script.
Robert Rankin.
Yes, Robert Rankin. Yes, and when he passed, he had worked with the Kaw people for 40 years, and when he passed, his wife actually sent his ashes to the Kaw people, and he's buried in the I�zhúje'waxóbe cemetery. Yes.
I was curious, Pauline, whether growing up, you obviously didn't learn the language of the Native Americans in school, but did your parents speak the language and teach you?
Yes, the question was, did I grow up with the language and learn it from my parents? And the answer is no. My grandmother, as many of you know, was chief of the tribe in the 1920s. She was our first woman chief. And Washunga was my great-grandfather. And so, of course, Washunga was a fluent speaker, but Lucy was in Haskell for 8 years and had actually forgotten a lot of the language. And when she married her second husband, he had been trading with the Kaw for years, and he could actually speak the language better than she could because he used it every day. But it did not, like my father's generation, it was not a good thing to be Indian in those days. And so a lot of things got lost in that generation. Yes, Donna.
When I was watching the Washunga Days in Council Grove, I began wondering if conversations you've had, especially with younger generation members of that community, have indicated to you any hint that a new generation of people has adopted a deeper understanding of the common history of the land as reflected in all of those difficult points. And yeah, just what evidence do you have, or have you been looking for signs that younger people are getting a bigger story?
Unfortunately, I don't believe the younger people in Council Grove have picked up on that. It's not taught in schools, and a lot of people don't know the history. When I retired, I took a Native American spirituality class at Wichita State University, and at the end of the class, Jerry Shaw, who's an Osage elder, he asked his students, okay, how many people here know where the state of Kansas got its name? Nobody knew. And that's when I decided that I should tell the story. Hopefully there will be some kind of relationship with Kaw Nation, in the schools. I would love to see Storm go to the schools and teach, the history.
I can add that there are efforts right now to do more of this education in the school system. So at the Spencer Museum of Art, we have a Partners in Education Across Kansas program, and we had a 5-year grant. Every year was focused on a different community. So I know that Wichita was one, Salina was one, and the year that there was a lot of movement with the Sacred Red Rock Project, our education team at the museum decided to have Council Grove be one of their target communities. And Storm did go do teacher education with the teachers. So she wasn't meeting with the students in the classes, but she was meeting with educators across the state, and they took a field trip to Council Grove so the teachers could learn how to incorporate this story and art in general into their classes. I have bought a lot of artwork about I̲zhúje'waxóbe, or collected a lot for the museum, so that we can continue telling this story, and those teachers had resources. They could use that art in their classes to teach about the true history of this country, to teach about colonization. Peak is, they're trying to encourage teachers, no matter what subject matter they they teach to incorporate art into their classes. So whether they're teaching science or social studies or art or mathematics, we can show them different ways. You can teach geology with this. We could teach about the glaciers and that part of history as well as Kaw Nation. There's also a KANEA, it's KANEA, the Kansas Association for Native American Education. It is a group that is trying to get more Indigenous education into the K through 12 curriculum within the state of Kansas. And I've presented to them previously about how they could incorporate this story into the curriculum across the state as well. So there are efforts, and hopefully that will be changing, and people in Council Grove, as well as other places, especially Lawrence, will hear about this story and learn more about Kaw Nation.
I also want to say that we have a book coming out, hopefully next month, and it tells the story of I̲zhúje'waxóbe as well. And the chapters were written by people in the leadership group, and there's everything you ever wanted to know. But we hope that those books will make it to the school libraries as well.
Plus this documentary. Currently, it's not available for streaming online, but we're having lots of discussions right now with various PBS stations in Wichita, in Kansas City, to try to get this story out there more. The documentary is currently only for private screenings like this, but our hope is that it will be widely available. We're doing the film circuit right now, so getting it into various film festivals across the country, which is where we received some of those awards for it. And if you put it for free on YouTube, it really hurts your chances of getting into these film festivals. So currently it's not available for streaming online, but we hope that it will be soon. And the book that is also coming out will be another great resource. It is a big book. I actually haven't seen it yet. I don't know if Pauline has, but I think it's 490 pages, 470, something like that. There's a lot of poetry and art and essays as well. So 490 sounds really intimidating, but there will be a lot of pretty photographs included as well. If anyone is interested in that, I do have a code to get you 30% off of the book. Find me, and I will, or maybe we can like email it out to everyone. I was told we could share it widely, but we'll figure out the best way to get you that discount code so you can pre-order the book as well. I can repeat it.
My granddaughters go to school in Council Grove, and so, and they live probably a mile from the rock, and they did not know anything about it. And so we stop by it and talk about it a lot. And I was just with them yesterday, actually, in Council Grove, and we stopped at the grocery store. And when we went back out, they told me that the woman that waited on us at the grocery store was no longer allowed to be a substitute teacher in the school because she had used a very inappropriate cultural word towards one of the students. And so that gives you just a kind of a capsule of what's happening. And I think in rural Kansas, I think that is not, but that is the level that a rural school district is trying to change these things. Anyway, that was yesterday. So, it's pretty much it.
What was the discussion that went on regarding returning the stone to the river versus where then what in that discussion?
So the question is, what was the discussion in regards to where the rock was returned to, the location that we ultimately decided? Do you want to take this one?
I had a pretty strong opinion about that. I said it needs to be where the Kaw people are, and not necessarily in Oklahoma, but I said it should be in Kansas, where the rock has been for hundreds of thousands of years, and we come up here once a year or twice a year or whatever it is, and it would be a good chance for our people to also learn the story, because our people don't know. And so that's what the tribal council and the general council decided to do.
There were lots of discussions about possibly moving the rock back to its location at the river, because of course that was the site where all of these Kaw people would come to gather to pray together, not to the rock, but as a site of prayer. So that location is also a sacred location. But as you saw in the film, it takes a river journey to get to that location. It's on private property. As rivers move and change, we don't know how that's going to affect the rock. It could fall over into the river again. And it's not accessible for people that want to come visit and start a relationship with I�zhúje'waxóbe again. So elders would have to take a canoe all the way there and then all the way back. As Polly mentioned, Oklahoma was an option as well, but as Jim said in the film, the Kaw people never wanted to leave Kansas, so they didn't think that the rock should leave Kansas. And because Kaw people come there often for their powwows during Washunga days and other times of year, they could have a very similar relationship as they did previously, where it was a gathering place for prayer, which is something that happens at powwows. So it really was the best location for I�zhúje'waxóbe.
There's a question over here in the second row.
Yeah.
Has there been any effort to acknowledge or teach people about the role of this area, Manhattan and Blue Earth Village, which I think was important before the concept even were removed as the road, to acknowledge this area in the history?
So the question is, has there been any concerted effort to acknowledge the history of Manhattan in this story and Kanza history, especially with Blue Earth?
There is, where's Doug Tippin? Yes. Doug, could you tell us about that?
Blue Earth Village was just east of Manhattan, about where the sail barn is. And they feel like there were quite a few members that lived there. And there is some information about it. There was a gentleman that was traveling through, and he recorded a lot of the history of that particular area. Now, recently, we have placed some markers in the Manhattan area, and there's one located where the Blue River flows into the Kansas River. There's a little parking area there, and we have a marker there about the Blue Earth Village, and of course the Blue Earth Plaza downtown is named after that. And when they dedicated that, a lot of members of your tribe came up for that. I think Lucifer Pepper was one of them, perhaps. And I've walked in an area looking for artifacts, but when they rebuilt Highway 24, they moved a lot of soil and kind of interrupted that site. So I didn't find too much, but that was a pretty good sized village at that time.
Why is it called Blue Earth? Why is it called Blue Earth?
Why is it called Blue Earth is the question, is it?
That's a good question.
We need Professor Ritterbusch for that.
Lauren Ritterbusch will follow your presentation, Pauline, with a lecture on Blue Earth. So go to the Chautauqua in City Park on September 19th in the afternoon.
September?
September 19th. Okay, that was going to be are there other questions? because I had that for my notes to say before we totally close, but anyone else have a burning question they didn't get to ask our panel here? Okay, I will proceed then with upcoming events, and thank you so much for your expertise. Oh, her earrings, if you hadn't noticed, they land back, so. The reference to the talk by Professor Ritterbush and by Pauline for the Chautauqua, it's just something new that's come out recently. I hadn't known this was coming. But as part of the Manhattan America 250 celebration, I think, they put together a Chautauqua on City Park stage and pavilion. And it's actually called At Home in Manhattan. So it explores being what in Manhattan, being at home in Manhattan, means to people from history and from early settlements and Indian developments and everything else, it sounds like, included. And you're doing a reenactment of your grandmother's story, is that the case? And Professor Ritterbush is kind of an expert on now I can't say the word, Indian settlements around the park. So anyway, it's the weekend of September 19th and 20th. 19th is when your reenactments are in her talk, I think. The 20th is okay, but that's the day of our pie party at the Genealogy Society. So we hope you'll split your time. Plan to come to the grounds at the Riley County Genealogical Society, bring a lawn chair, enjoy pie and ice cream, and listen to music from the, wrote it down here if I can find it, the Tallgrass Express is our musical entertainment this year. So it should be a good program. Hopefully it'll be a beautiful day, and we've always enjoyed the shade there and the music, and we'll hope to see you then. And also, like I said, the Chautauqua. Prior to that, coming up on September 6th, there is a Yuma Street celebration. That's a Labor Day weekend. Is that Labor Day or Memorial Day? Or I'm getting all mixed up, but it's Labor Day. We are going to have a booth at the Douglas Center there, along with a lot of other agencies and people here in town celebrating that part of Manhattan's history as well, where the African American exodusters settled and have grown to be part of our community. So September 6th at Yuma Street, September 19th with the Chautauqua, and September 20th with the pie party. So, and then coming up, we won't have another Sunday program in September. The pie party takes the place. In October, we'll be back here again with a presentation on photo preservation and digitization. So that could be interesting for those of us that are trying to preserve visual aspects of our history. Are there other, Charlene? Yes.
The organizer for Chautauqua is Donna up front, so I don't know if Donna wants to say a little bit about
Do you want to say more about Chautauqua? I didn't know that about you, but. Well, it's really been sponsored by many organizations, but the Institute for Civic Discourse and Democracy that I'm part of uses this as an opportunity to bring the community together in conversation. And we thought, what a great year to have safe, rich conversations. And it's kind of a trial run because we had one in 2005. Anybody here was at that? And other cities have had traditions of Chautauquas that even resulted in parks named after them. So we're thinking the desire of everyone to get into good community conversation and learn about themselves, learn about each other and their values of home inspired us to start this. So please come, and we're going to be recording as much as we can of it. So the package will go to the Riley County History Museum, and we'll know how to do this again if we decide to do it.
Thank you. Keep finding other people in the audience that have wonderful information for us. Yes.
I just want to say that I have been friends with Pauline and Doug for a number of years, but when she did, during COVID, she did Chief Lucy so that a lot of us could watch it online. I completely forgot that it was my friend Pauline. She was Chief Lucy. So if you have a chance to, please do not miss it, because she may not want to do it. Already retired at one day.
It's not everyone that has a chief in their grandmother's heritage. That's wonderful. So Okay, although I may make a public address announcement myself here. I wear two hats. I'm not only president of this organization, but of Conservation Prairie Quilters Guild. And we're having a big quilters marketplace this next Saturday, 29th, down at St. Thomas More's Utopia Room. We have more fabric and more stabilizers and more rotary cutters and more everything and anything having to do with sewing that you can shake a stick at. So come between 10 and 4 and help us get rid of some of it, because we would love to have a crowd. So thank you. Any other things? If not, thank you all for coming out today. It's been great.